I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jackie. Welcome back to Dumb Witch Club.
Yes.
Oh, that was such a cute sigh.
Was it cute?
Yes.
Aww.
How are you feeling today, darling?
I like this day.
I like this day too. It feels like a day.
It feels like a day.
I was feeling that yesterday too, though.
Yeah, I was yesterday too.
I was just kind of like, such a good day.
It's a good day. Like, we're coming out of the frozen tundra that has been our lives.
I know. I feel like we're seeing you know, I don't even know what. I feel like there's some movie or something that I'm like having in my head, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Where it's like, or maybe it's just one of those nature type of videos where it's like showing like fast, sped up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's like the ice is melting and the things are like popping out of the earth. It's like, I feel like that. Like, I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, I love that when it's like a close up of like a bud.
Yes,
and
exactly.
it's like emerging and then like, it shows it like, you know, like you said, like sped up.
Yes.
I know.
But even when it's like the whole, and it's like, there's like ice and then it's like melts.
Yes.
It's like, brrr,
oh
it's
yeah,
like
I love that. Like turns into water and it's mud and then it's like grass.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So I think that is how I've been feeling, and it's been great.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's like, especially the past couple of days, it's just
I agree.
starting to feel better, and I can like breathe now, and that's nice.
I know. So, yes. And I also feel like, look, I know partly this is irrelevant to anyone that is watching or listening to this because it's coming out at the same time as usual, because we are very committed to having these episodes come out every single Monday for all of y'all.
Right.
But that being said, we are recording this not at the normal time.
Right.
So it's sort of a different vibe. It's a different energy.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just, I don't know, it just feels different.
It does, and it feels like, honestly, even though it's frustrating when, you know, you have plans and things, you know, you do a certain way and everything, and you can't for whatever reason, like, definitely it feels like this is just what it was meant to be, and we were kind of forced into changing it because it just needed to be accommodated that way. And instead of, like, getting super upset and frustrated about that, like, I really took the opportunity to be like, what am I supposed to be doing instead of that? Instead of like wallowing in like, oh, it sucks and that's just like gross and whatever. Like, I'm like, no, like, what can I do instead that's like still beneficial, and like maybe this is like the shift that, you know, we needed right now.
Well, and just to add more detail, you actually really helped me. Like, I know we've talked in the past, like when you were sick and it was like a week later, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should do a healing spell for her, you know? But this time it was reversed. It was me. I had a migraine, whatever, horrible.
Yeah.
And you were immediately like, oh, I'm going to like do a spell for you.
Yep.
And you did. And like, it really helped so much.
I'm so
just
glad.
helped me feel more relaxed and stop like fighting with myself.
Yeah.
Which I think is a huge shift, and sort of like that's like the power and the energy of spell work.
Absolutely.
It didn't fix, my headache didn't disappear,
No.
you know, of course, but it made me like, it's gonna be okay, you know?
Yeah.
That helps.
No, absolutely. And it's like from the minute I knew that it was happening, because I did end up doing something tangible and I told you what it was and everything like that.
Yeah.
But like from the minute like I knew what was happening before I even had a chance to kind of set that up and do that, I already like got into that space, you know, and was like starting like the magical workings. And before I was ever doing anything physical, I started to get into that space. And like, I feel like that's exactly what, I try to bring like to you, because I think that's usually what you need, is just to be given the permission for it to be okay that you're not functioning highly.
Yes. And I think that goes both ways.
Absolutely.
I think we are both so used to functioning highly, even under like duress or under like physical, our own oppression from our own physical like illnesses or just not feeling well.
Yes.
So yes.
Yeah, because we always operate in that space. We're always operating in that space to an extent without going super into it. And so it's very hard. We don't always talk to ourselves in the best way, and
I know.
You need someone else to do that for you. And, you know, really that is what is magical about it. And I love that because it's kind of very topical to what we're talking about today.
Yes, precisely. And in fact, I don't know, I feel like maybe we should just say,
Yeah.
our topic today is coming out of the broom closet. And we're going to get more into what that means and how you do that. But that's what we're talking about. And sort of like, obviously tying into any kind of, and other things we've talked about, spells and energy and the way that you use the power that you have.
Absolutely.
To do whatever you can positive in the world for people, for yourself, for others.
Yes, and I think we were like literally given a real-time lesson of that.
Correct. We were. And like you were already saying a few minutes ago, it is also, unfortunately, I think very easy for us and others when something happens like that to just be like mad about it and frustrated about it and sad or disappointed or like, I'm so sorry that I am affecting you in this way, you know?
Yeah.
But no, I think we were both just like, no, this for some reason is how it's meant to be. And we're meant to be here today, right now, in this time, doing this, and it feels really good. I'm really happy.
Yeah, I agree.
And my headache's gone, which is also great.
I know, and that's amazing. And like it really did, like it really feel like it set us up for this, like we were just talking about, like this re-emergence, like out of, you know, what the past like few weeks has been and everything like that, and that we were given like a real gift of being able to see that in real time. Because sometimes we're talking about these topics because they matter a lot to us, and we know they matter to you, but we're not necessarily like engaged in those feelings like in the moment or tapped into them in the moment. That's not always the case. We can get into that energy as we need to. But in this case, it happened to be that. And so that's like, I mean, what a gift, you know, overall. So.
Yes. No, I totally agree. And I don't know, I always feel like whenever we have these conversations, I end up feeling like, yes, no, you're right, and it's good, and like it's so nice.
I know.
I also think, and now I'm sort of segmenting into our why though segment.
Sure.
The last weeks of March were very, very chaotic in the universe, in the skies, and we touched on those, you know, in the last couple of episodes. Like so many things, so many alignments happening, or so many signs or planets changing sign.
Yeah.
Now, this week, we're in April.
Right.
And it's a pretty quiet week ahead.
Oh my God, thank God.
It's a pretty quiet weekend to kick off April. So we're still, you know, obviously we're in Aries season.
Yes.
And there's a lot of Aries energy initiating right now. The sun is obviously in Aries. There's 5 other planets that are in Aries. One of them will be leaving shortly, which is Mercury into Taurus. But anyway, so there's still a lot of this like renewal, fiery, kind of like let's get things started. But it doesn't feel urgent, if that makes sense.
No,
it's just like an invitation. And I'm like, thank you for that.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. It's been a little bit chaotic, as I think everyone will agree. And I mean, there was obviously a lot of evidence for that. So, you know, there's that. But, like, whatever you're feeling is valid. And I think most of the people that I was interacting with, whether they knew about those aspects or not, was feeling that energy. And, like, we were too. And all these things were happening and stuff. So, yeah, it does, even though we have that Aries fire, I still go back to, like, I remember, I think, saying on, like, the last episode we filmed, or maybe the one before, like, because you laughed at me. I was like,
wait, are you going to say something funny? Because I was going to drink water. Should I wait? Or just don't say it until I'm done?
Well, you laughed then. I don't know.
Okay, I'm just saying, like, how many times do we catch each other in a sip of water and then we're, like, dying? Anyway, okay, I'm ready. Go.
I think it was last time I was like, I want to burn everything to the ground.
Yes.
And you were like, well, Aries will really, like, co-sign that and help you do. I think it was last episode, but anyway.
No, 100% yes. So, good. But I also think we have a lovely full moon in Libra coming up on April 6th. And so every full moon is in the opposite sign, the polarity energy of the sun, because that's how a full moon happens, right? They're across from each other. Right. And I feel like they're always offering these polarity lessons.
Sure.
This one in particular is so beautiful. It's very romantic. It's very sensual and pleasure-filled. You know, we have the Libra coming in with its connection to Venus, which always brings that beautiful, you know, like sensual kind of energy.
Definitely.
And I said, I think in this full moon, the Aries fire passion of the sun right now is lighting up the inner passion that the moon represents.
Yeah.
And so we're really having this beautiful, harmonious illumination.
I love that.
It's very nice. I'm excited about it.
It is nice. I definitely feel that. I'm picking up on that, and I feel like, I think I mentioned before the last full moon too, like I felt the leading up to it, like more than usual. And I feel like with this season, I feel that same way. Yeah, I feel like it's leading up to, and it's precisely that feeling. And I feel like there's a lot of other stuff like contributing to it too, like, you know, like Venus being in like Taurus and everything too. I feel like that.
Right, exactly.
That I think you said this last time, like the creature comforts.
Yes.
Like really honing in on kind of what is making you feel good and taking care of you, and really focusing in on the inner and kind of your space, like your surroundings, whether that be your home space or like if it's inside, you know, that's a thing too.
Well, your body is your home, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So whatever that is for you, it could be both of them. I'm definitely like picking up on that energy too, and I really, really like it.
Yes, no, and I really like that too, because I think it just even sort of serves and highlights that because Venus rules Libra and Taurus. Right. And so it's like that Libra full moon is also drawing that Venus energy, and Venus is in Taurus right now, which she loves to be in. So it's very harmonious and beautiful, and like sort of that aesthetic coming in, your surroundings, and just, I know, it's such a cozy, charming, like beautiful energy.
Yeah, cozy in like a different way than you would typically think of like
yes, no, correct. It's not like it's like a springtime cozy.
It is a springtime
you know?
cozy.
Like, does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's not like a winter cozy. It's like a spring cozy.
Like even to the point where like, okay, some people might get this. I'm pretty sure you'll get this. Like candles are like cozy, right? We love candles. We love candle work. We loved even just like our candles that we light that are like scented candles. We love them.
Yeah.
And like I find myself like I still want my candles. I still want my like coziness, but I'm like switching out like what scents I'm using, what vibe I'm using. Like I'm over the winter ones. I'm over the fall ones. Like I want the spring ones, but I still want that warmth.
100%. And I think that's exactly what it is. So it's like, yeah, the lemon scented is coming out.
Yes.
And the like, you know, like gardenia is coming out, you know, instead of the like, you know, cinnamon and, you know, whatever, like coffee shop scents or whatever.
Yes. Which like we always stand, but it's like ready for a fresh.
100%. And yesterday, I'll just mention, like yesterday I spent the morning, doing some different things, but in my house, I opened all the windows, which we're out of the rain. The sun is out. Can open all the windows. Yeah. You know, I feel like that really lends to like cleansing and smudging and things like that, because you can have the windows. You can open your windows in the winter too. I know that. I do. But it's different because then you're cold. Anyway, whatever. So everything was open. I had my Palo Santo going. I had my sage going. Yep. And it felt like, oh, so nice.
I know. It really, really... more, I don't know why, but more than ever this year. And you would think in the past few years, like the things we've been through and sort of these shifts, that it would be, but I don't think until now we've ever actually felt like, okay, things are actually shifting.
I agree. I think things have moved and happened, but so much has felt so stuck over the last 3 years. Let's just call it, you know, the pandemic time. And it is now finally, and I feel like it has to do with like Saturn and Jupiter both changing signs recently. And Pluto too. And so I feel like it's finally like, finally.
No, I completely agree. And I think on the world stage, you know, there's some pretty like non-cozy shifts. There's some pretty like non-cozy transits, and like Pluto shifting, and then Saturn like semi-sextiling Pluto, and like those kind of like major world, like, look, there's been a lot of really horrible things that have been happening sort of on the world stage and everything. But I think that's even more reason to pull in some of the other energies so that you can like fortify yourself, so that you're like, you know, the right person you need to be for those other things, because, you know, they are happening too. But it almost feels like it's necessary stuff too. It's like, okay, yes, we need these things
Yes.
to come to light. Like,
Yes. Yes. And I think a lot of the times, and maybe just as humans, like we want the change, but we don't want the pain of changing.
Yeah.
But we have to do it.
We have to.
Otherwise things don't change. And that's like on a societal level. Sometimes it's a personal level too. But I think that's why it's really cool that when we see like these outer planets going through those really tough, like you're talking about semi-sextiles and all of that and changes. But then we have the personal planets in these really beautiful spaces right now. And I think the purpose of that really is it gives you as a personal individual like all of this loveliness to work with so that you can be in the world where this stuff is happening.
Absolutely.
Because you're here. You have to be in it because you are in it.
You are. And there's certainly things you can do, but there's only so much you actually can do. And it's okay to recognize those things. And, you know, that goes back to the lesson that we learned this week too. Like, there only is so much that you have the capacity for.
I know.
And it's okay. And it's okay to tap into those other energies so that, you know, you can take care of yourself and everything. And look, once again, like a Venus coming through for us. We always talk about that.
I know. Love it.
Yeah, they're always coming through for us if we bother to pay attention and really, you know, think about those things. And right now I really am. So loving that.
I know. I am too. I don't feel like as dumb of a witch right now.
I know.
I feel like a smart witch kind of.
Should we change the channel's name to Smart Witch Club?
No, because I think this is temporary.
Dang it. And it's not April 1st, so that's not an April 1st.
No, I know, but it was.
That would have been funny.
Yeah. Oh, well. Anyways, maybe next year. Okay.
Maybe next year.
Anything else important in Why, though? Because I feel like it's a quiet week. That is what my takeaway is from Why, though, is it's a quiet week in the skies, finally. It's very necessary. I am taking this moment to really bask in the full moon in Libra, which is coming up, and leading up to that, and to just, like, breathe and just feel okay.
Yeah. No, I think that sums it up pretty well. I feel like that's that's everything we need to know.
Amazing. Would we like to do a card pull? I think we can do that now. This is a good time.
I brought this deck today.
I love that deck. I love all of our decks, but I love that one.
Yes.
Turned into a weird song. I'm really sorry.
It is no, that was good.
I was going to keep going.
We're always making up little songs.
Little ditties.
Little ditties.
I know.
Yes, it's the Iris deck by Spirit Speak.
Yes, and I have the corresponding tarot deck, which you gifted to me.
Which is beautiful, and
it's
the art
beautiful.
is gorgeous. And I think I was just drawn to it because it's so colorful. Honestly, it's probably not deeper than that. I just think I was like, ooh, something fresh and something new. Though that Passages deck has been really good.
It has been. No, and I think, you just pick a deck. You're not rejecting all your other decks.
No,
you
exactly.
Just pick one out, right?
That's so true. I really struggle with that. Thinking about that, how they feel
bad. You feel bad for that one.
That they feel lonely, and
No,
left out and everything. I need to not do that. Or when you go thrifting and you see all the stuffed animals and you feel like they are all sad because they're just there by themselves.
That is really sad.
It's a thing for me. I cry about it.
I know. It is. It's very sad. I know. That is really sad.
They had their little eyes. I can't.
Why are you bringing this up? It's
awful.
So awful.
It's so awful.
It's so tragic. It hurts.
And most people don't understand that. When I say that, they're like, what are you talking about? That those are objects. But every once in a while I have someone who's like, I know. Those are my people.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, yes, I know. Obviously you've been shuffling. I guess I'm picking.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a long time.
I love that. Very deliberate today.
Spirits to guide you.
Oh, that's great.
It's spirits to guide you.
I love that. I've been really tapping into that recently, so I really personally like that.
Yes.
That's been great. I've been noticing angel numbers a lot more recently, ever since we talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been...
I know. I think it's really just the idea that I feel like there's always spirits to guide you, and sometimes you don't really need them, and sometimes you really need them, but they're always there.
Yep.
So And I don't think it's kind of like you're saying about rejecting, like, the cards, the other decks. Like, just because you don't need them at the time doesn't mean you're rejecting them.
That's absolutely valid.
They're there for you. And when you need them, you go to them. But sometimes they also show you, like, hey, we have some guidance for you. And then you can pay attention to them.
Yeah. And depending on what, you're working with, whether that be like your own spirit guides or deities or whatever, like there's always like an aspect of like consent to that. So, that's important what you just said, because it's like they're not all at your beck and call or like working with you all the time. No, certainly not. It doesn't work that way.
No, definitely not.
No, but that's a nice reminder that some are here, and whatever, we need is always there.
Yes, and I do. I think so too. So, okay. All right. Let's get on our big witch energy.
Big witch energy.
Ooh, another song. We are breaking it down today.
I liked that.
We're gonna start a DJ business.
Oh
also,
my gosh.
Just so you know. Look for that.
Dumb Witch Club DJ.
Yeah, it's very popular side hustle. So that's what we're gonna do.
So yeah,
we're gonna have that sound. We're gonna have all these songs. We're gonna be bringing the party.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's cute.
It's going to be so good. Anyways.
So April Fool's.
Okay. Our big witch energy today is devoted to the subject of coming out of the broom closet.
I love this topic.
I love this topic. And this is about how I'm defining or imagining this. It's about how to live unapologetically as a witch.
Yeah, I love this whole topic. I feel like in just preparing for this, I even just taught myself lessons that I needed.
Yes.
Yeah. And I did also, focus some of that energy on honoring those who are closeted in their spiritual practice and who, potentially for their own safety, need to be. And that's totally, I don't even want to say that's okay, because that's more than okay.
Oh,
that's
yes.
absolutely valid and, very important work and everything like that too. So I have some of that in here too. So
yeah, no, completely agree. And I think that the one of the larger points that we would make with all of this is that it is a personal decision on how you handle this, or if you even do or don't do it. That was not worded well, but and I think it's kind of, so we're borrowing that terminology and concept sort of from the LGBTQ plus concept of coming out,
right?
Which, and I think this is true in terms of what we're speaking about, with witchy stuff. It's almost like I don't think there should be a process of coming out because I think it should be fine. And people shouldn't be assuming, because the process of coming out is kind of the idea that you must tell people this thing about you because it is so different, and you have to inform them because what they're assuming about you is not the truth.
Yes.
And it may be true that what they're assuming about you is not the truth.
Absolutely.
But why should people not have to come out and say they're Christian?
Right.
Or come out and say they're straight,
right.
For examples. So I think sort of in that sense, it's somewhat problematic to begin with, because
absolutely.
It's marginalized and such.
No, that's very true, and it's a very good point. But
I still like the idea.
I like the idea, and I think, and I think also because you shouldn't have to, right? And you don't.
You don't have to.
You don't.
That's
But I do want to validate too that there are individuals who, they really are learning to love these things about themselves, and they want to be more open about it, or they want to be able to kind of wear it outwardly. So if that's your choice, unfortunately, because of the world we live in and the society we live in, it has to be done that way. But yes, I think that's a great point that you bring up. We don't fundamentally agree with that and wish that it was different. just like with everything else we're talking about.
We wish so many things were different.
Yeah, we wish like everything was different. I mean, except for you and me. But
no,
like,
I think we're perfect, but not really, but kind of actually, yes. No, so I think, okay, but to what we were just talking about, I think, so for me, this coming out of the broom closet, or any kind of coming out for that matter, it's less about making some official announcement where you're like, I am here to tell everyone that I am a witch. It's not that.
No.
It's about living out who you are.
Yes.
Without even needing to make an announcement about it.
Why did I laugh so hard?
I don't know.
It was
probably because I was doing a posture.
It was funny.
Yeah, because that's ridiculous.
It
right?
is. I mean, yeah, like, the time has come.
Right. And look, if that is what you want to do, if you do want to make a declaration on social media or in front of your next dinner party, go ahead. Like, I'm not saying that you can't. But I just don't think that is what is necessary.
No, it's not. It's not. And I think that might even be validating for people. And that's what I'm hoping this conversation is, ultimately. Because
believe it or not, that's what we're trying to do.
I really hope that it is. And I'm really glad you're bringing up these points because they're super important. Like, you don't, like, okay, I just think about people who are influenced, and we're all influenced by what you're seeing in the media, what you're seeing on social media, sort of that kind of thing, right? Where everything is some announcement, like gender reveal, like parties and the like, right? Where everything is sort of this announcement. And I think why I laughed is when you were saying it, I don't know, I had this like imagery in my head of this like party and like someone announcing it and like popping a balloon, but instead of like pink or blue, it was like black.
Yes.
And being like, I have to tell everyone, like, I'm a goth.
Yeah, exactly. I want you all to know, officially.
Which I kind of also love. So, it's very complicated. I don't know. I kind of also love that. Like, if you want to throw that party, I'm so here to, like, watch your stories on
100%.
Your reels. I think that's great. But.
No, especially if you're doing it fully knowing sort of like the irony or what you're doing. Yeah. I think that's amazing.
I think it's amazing. I love it. I love it too. I love it. But yes, you
don't
have to do that. And I'm so glad that you said, back to your more salient point, I'm so glad that you said, you know, that it doesn't have to be that way. And it's more about like, you know, who you are like in your skin and how you're sort of owning it. And I hope that's validating to people that like, you're in the Dumb Witch Club no matter what. So your membership is your membership. Whether that is worn as a badge on your clothing or that's something you know inside, it doesn't matter. You're in the club. You don't have to do anything to belong to it other than express that you want to belong, and you do. So just know that, like, bottom line, if this is who you are, this is who you are. And nobody can take that away from you or tell you that there's some set of criteria that you have to go through in order to be that person.
Absolutely. And I also think there are subtler ways than making that big announcement to do this, because you know that in your heart, like Ashley was just saying. So I think even in just small ways, it's like, and I think a lot of these things are widely acceptable. For example, like a lot of people are into like crystals and you know, so that's sort of an entry point with people to kind of connect on something that might or might not be connected to more witchy practices. But it's a way to like, that's something you can display or talk about. Or if you work somewhere and someone has the crystal on their desk, you can be like, you know, you can start that conversation.
Absolutely.
And that's just a way of being who you are and connecting with other people who are expressing something similar, even if it's not the same.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. I love that. What else? Yeah. So, no, I feel like it's interesting because I sort of have, I think there's a personal story within all of this. But, you know, I did not grow up with... any of this, right? Yeah. And so for me, it was kind of a matter of clearly having disengaged from what I was raised with. Yeah. And then there's sort of just being like nothing there, you know? And maybe for me, there was something starting or happening, but like nobody knew about it, right? And then suddenly we're doing this, this show, and people are like, what's it called? And then you're like, oh, it's Dumb Witch Club. Well, what's it about? Astrology and witchcraft.
oh. And I've been shocked with how many people do not have follow-up questions.
I know.
They're not like, oh, so what, you're a witch now? Or, oh, when they're just like, oh, that's what you're doing. Because that's how I say it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yes, this is what I'm doing. And they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I am not shocked that people don't have follow-up questions for you.
Well, I know. I was also like, I feel like I'm leaning a lot on my Aries rising in these scenarios where I'm just like, yep, that's what it is.
Yeah, and just who you are. Like, all of that is who you are.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, the authentic you and how you present yourself to the world and how you live out your life, and on the varying levels that people know these things, because you know, some of these people that you're talking about might know a lot and some of them might know not that much, but still, like, it's very obvious that you are like full of conviction about who you are. And so I think maybe they do have questions, but like, and maybe they'll ask you at some other time or something when they've processed it through.
I don't even care if people have questions. I'm fine with it. It's just been interesting to see how many people don't seem to question it.
Yeah.
You know? And maybe it's not that they don't have questions, but they don't question it.
Yeah.
They're not like, what are you talking about? They're just like, oh, you know?
Which is actually kind of nice, too, because it feels like people are maybe a little bit more open-minded and like, oh, okay, like, that's a thing. Like,
yeah.
Okay, cool. Maybe, like, let me check it out and see what it's about for myself before I, like, bombard her with a bunch of questions. Maybe, like, I can answer the questions for myself. I feel like that's sort of the reaction I've gotten, too, because I think we are very different, but I think there is a commonality between us where people do know that I'm very sure of who I am and what I am. And so I think it's the same thing. Like, they don't really question it because it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense for her.
Well, yeah, and like you or I, we wouldn't say that if we weren't sure.
Right.
Because,
we
you
wouldn't.
know, which isn't to say you have to be 100% confident and sure of all of this to be valid of where you're at.
No, and that we're purely talking about, like, because
personal stories.
Yes, and this very public sort of expression of it is what we're talking about.
Yes.
But in other ways, it manifests in different ways, you know, with different people and different stuff, and, you know, who I choose to tell and who you choose, or, you know, the conversations we choose to have and who we feel safe with or do not feel safe with and stuff. Like, everybody has to navigate that for themselves. But, you know, Jackie and I are speaking on this topic as being people who are very public with what we're doing.
Clearly, obviously, at this point, we are. But we all weren't always.
No.
Which is why, like, earlier when I said, like, suddenly we're doing this show, it wasn't sudden. I mean, it may have appeared sudden to people who didn't know the entire lead up to it, but it wasn't sudden, you know, and we know that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep, yeah. Because I think we, you know, the other thing is, like, we have always just done things that we know to feel right to ourselves and not really felt the need to fit into any kind of specific box or framework. Not that we don't have respect for others that do, but we just have never felt like we had to do a lot of, like, declaration about anything, really.
Yes, no, exactly. It's kind of like need to know basis.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, and you don't need to know.
We have a very need to know basis relationship.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, 100%.
Most people don't need.
No. I mean, not with each other.
No,
with
not with
each
each
other.
other.
Everything is need to
Of course. Of course. And when we don't, we're like, oh my God, how did I not know?
How did I
what?
not know?
I know.
And it's not even like, how come you didn't tell me?
No.
It's like, how did I not know? How did I not
automatically
automatically already know?
I know.
Oh, and then it's heartbreaking.
I know, because we're like, why are we human?
I know.
I know. We
Don't
won't always be.
No, that is
Someday we
true.
won't
Oh
be.
my God, you're right. I love that.
I know.
It's very comforting.
It'll be so great.
It's very comforting.
It is very comforting. Like, it'll be so lovely, and we will just know. We won't even have to have those, like, asinine, human, stupid conversations anymore.
I know. We'll just know everything.
We'll just
be
be
pure
energy.
I know.
I love when we say things.
Ooh, okay,
my
this
favorite thing.
is getting amazing. Okay, what else can we say about the process or advice on coming out of the broom closet? I think our advice so far is it's a very personal path. There are grand or subtle ways of expressing this and doing this, because we're really talking about expression and being out in the world, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I just the one like kind of main thing I wanted to highlight is like ultimately like magic is intention. Like what magic is, what magical working is, what spell work is, whatever kind of terms you're comfortable with, however you want to say it. It's intention. Like at its very core, that is essentially, if you're going to like kind of essentialize it, that is what it is. Essentialize. I mean, not in a negative connotation, like a positive connotation.
Yes, no, I know. I liked the word.
Same. But yeah, like if you are doing anything with that ultimate intention inside and that conviction inside, you are doing magical things. Whether you say that they're that or not, you are. You just are. So just know that.
Yeah. And like, it's good. It's fine.
Yes.
It's okay. That's the way it is.
Yes. It's lovely.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes. Because we all have that like spark of the universe in us because we're alive, right?
Yep.
And it's there. It is there.
Yeah. So you don't have to do any other thing. Like any other thing. Just having that intentionality inside means, you are doing magic.
So what about if you want to, and I'm sort of going from what you're saying, but changing a little bit with this question. What if you want to start wearing like jewelry or some kind of signifiers, and then you get questions from people because they say that, and they're like, oh, what does your necklace mean? Or, oh, what does that ring mean? Or something like that.
Absolutely.
Like if you have some, like the common symbols of witchcraft, maybe like a pentagram or even just certain kinds of moon, shapes or things with goddesses on them or tarot, card-related imagery. Like, what should we do if we're kind of taking those maybe subtle steps of like just wearing a necklace with like, the Empress card, tarot card imagery on it or something.
Yeah.
And somebody's like, well, what does that mean? Why do you have that?
Right. Absolutely. And, again, this is where you really have to decide, who that person is, what relationship you have to that person, and, what is kind of like that cost analysis. Like, do I want to be open here? Is this something I feel drawn to do? Or is this, and you can make that choice. And if the choice is, it doesn't feel and sit right with me that I should, right? There's so many things you can say, right? Oh, well, I just like crystals. I think, I'm really into the environment and the earth and all of its natural resources, and I just really like them. Or, I just really appreciate some of this imagery. I'm really into art. I'm an art appreciator, or I'm an artist.
Right.
And so, this is something I really like, and that's perfectly valid. But if you did want to share a little bit more, I just think being completely open, and you don't have to say like, oh, well, that's because I'm a witch. And so, you don't have to do that.
Again, you could, or you don't have to.
You don't have to.
I think, so for me, I like to, and I know some people ask questions, in a judgmental way because they are being judgmental.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you pick up on that, I would not, take that person's energy and accept it and absorb it. And I wouldn't do that. But a lot of times when people ask, it's because they genuinely have curiosity.
Yeah, most of the time I would say.
And so in those cases, I would be like friendly and open and honest.
Yes.
And maybe not say like, oh, it's because I'm a witch, but, say something like, oh yeah, like this is imagery from tarot. I really love reading tarot cards or learning about them, or, wherever you're at with it, and just saying like, yeah, it's like super fun. And it's kind of part of a lot of things that I'm into or getting into. And it's like really interesting and cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just kind of can have like a general answer.
And that, I would say, is generally what happens if I'm just speaking on it personally. That's generally what happens with me. And I think, I'm a Gemini rising, so I think I come off very bubbly and very open.
I know. I love when she says this and then she does this little
Yeah, I do.
Like, it comes off, you know? I mean,
Totally.
It's not fake. It's real.
No, it's real.
But, like, that's, your body starts to embody that. You know? It's amazing.
I do. And I very much know that I come across that way. And a lot of times
It's
that's...
effervescent. That's what I would
Oh, well,
say.
thank you.
Yes.
That's sweet. Well, I like that word.
You're welcome.
I love that. And I do love that because I feel like it gives me sort of a unique position in who I am and in being a witch and everything that when people do engage in conversation like that with me, they feel safe typically. Like usually people are not like thrown off. Like they feel like they can ask because I just come across as like very open and very sweet and very bubbly. And so they ask me, and I do love that because I feel like sometimes I do say something that is a little bit jarring or shocking. Like I do like to do that sometimes too.
That's also a Gemini rising
it is.
characteristic.
Very much
like,
so.
Say this, just put it out in the air and then be like,
Yeah, and then just blink. Like, what are you going to say back to me? And it's not to like mess with people to like hurt them. It's not like that.
No, it's not any kind of, you know, you're not like, anyway, it doesn't matter. We could get way into this. It doesn't matter. Keep going.
Yeah, it's not to do that. And I certainly would never want anyone to feel like, you know, put off or offended or anything. I mean, I guess if they do, they do. But most of the time, it's just like, I like to challenge people's perceptions of things. And so when I do say like, oh, because I'm a witch, I think, yeah, a lot of times people don't match what they see with me to that, what their perception is, right? And so then it throws them a little bit for like a cognitive loop, like, wait a second, what did you just say? And then, but they're keyed in at that point. And I love that because then I can have that, if it goes in that direction, I can have that conversation with people about like, you don't have to look a certain way in order to identify as that. And you don't have to hide it and look, you know, it's, I mean, I guess a little bit in a way like modeling it, you know, you can be open, you know, about it if you feel safe to do so.
Well, yeah. And I think so much of it too is about tone.
Sure.
And like the way you just said that, like, oh yeah, it's because I'm a witch. Like that's so different than sort of the way that I was sort of mimicking the like way you could say that in some dramatic, harsh fashion. Like, sorry, like Leo sun here being like, I'm a witch. You know, I mean, you don't have to be like, I don't even want to be like that. It's just silly.
They're like, we know.
Dramatic. No. Seriously.
They're like, yeah. You're like, okay.
Oh my God, no. So a lot of it is about your tone and just kind of being like, oh yeah, you know, yeah, like this is, you know, and kind of like, just kind of leaving it there.
Yes, definitely.
You know? Like,
yeah. Yes.
Like the way you might be like, oh yeah, like I have a Honda Accord, you know, like
exactly. Yeah, and it's not.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly, and it's to normalize it, right? Like it's not to diminish it. It's not to disrespect it. That's not what we're saying. We recognize all those things, but like our intention and sort of like what we feel like we've been called to do is to normalize these things, and we have the privilege to do it. Yes. So if I'm presented with that opportunity, that is how I'm going to approach it personally, because that is what I feel like my job is to do, is to normalize it.
Yeah, and the entire, like that wish that we have for a society where you don't have to come out in some official way about different ways that you are as a person.
Right.
I think eventually, if we get there, it's because it's been normalized for so long.
Yeah.
That eventually people, it's like enters the culture, enters the vernacular, and then some generation people are like, it's just there. They're not even aware that it wasn't that way before. So
I know. Oh, to dream.
I know, seriously. But no, I think being a little part of that is nice.
I agree. And I do think, you know, again, you have to go with your intuition and everything like that. But what I do really appreciate about the space that we belong to, sort of in like the magical community, I guess, like people genuinely are like curious most of the time and are very accepting, and it almost always feels really nice and really inclusive. And I feel like most people come away, I would hope, from a conversation with me like that where they feel maybe curious about things, or maybe they're already really into it, so they just feel maybe validated or something, or at the very least just feel like, wow, maybe there's, you know, spaces where I can really feel like I belong, and I can be accepted for who I am. And
yes, and just feel welcomed, you know?
For
so
sure.
I do think there continue to be, Okay, let me back up.
Yeah.
I do think that a lot of parts of society or certain kind of groups of people are being much more drawn into this form of spirituality now.
For sure.
Than have been before. And I think part of it has to do with the internet being able to access like people who are just normal people, or, you know, people that seem cool and not scary or strange, that they can kind of feel accessibility with and all of that stuff. But there does continue to be stigma and misunderstanding, which I think, you know, not the people who are maybe being judgmental purposely because they want to hurt you with their judgments, but people who just have misunderstanding because they don't know information. It's not our job to educate everyone in the world. No. And you don't have to take on that emotional labor, but if you have the capacity to just redirect people's misunderstandings and just say, like, you know, if somebody, you know, for example, a common thing is like, if you do witchcraft or you're into astrology, like, do you talk to demons, or you do these kinds of things, or you do seances and like call ghosts and things like that, which, whatever, if those are things that people do, maybe, but I don't think that's what most of us are doing. And so just having the willingness to just gently correct those misconceptions and just say like, oh, actually, no, that's not really what it is, you know, for me or my friends. And, you know, we just kind of do, you know, these other things that are more accurate.
Well, yeah, and I think that what you're doing when you're doing that too, I mean, you're doing really important good work, right? Because you are destigmatizing things and you're normalizing things, but you're also, in my opinion, like, you're allowing people to consider this from a perspective of, oh, wow, it really is an individual approach. It's an individual choice. So maybe they've been interested in sort of tarot in the past, but then, you know, they, because of what you've been fed, it's not your fault, have been associating it with sort of those other things that they do not believe in or do not want to engage in, such as like demonic things. Right. So they're like, well, then I can't be a witch, or I don't belong in that space because I'm not into those things, and so I don't. And so I think what you're describing when you're breaking it down like that, you're allowing people to, you're saying like, no, you can be whatever you want to be, whatever resonates with you, whatever you believe in, whatever you want to pour your energy into, you can do and still consider yourself a magical practitioner, a witch, whatever term you want to be. Yeah. You can. It's okay. See, I do it this way, you know, kind of thing.
Exactly. Because I think that is, and I think that's what makes it confusing for a lot of people, even people who are interested in learning about it, is that there's not like these specific really hard, fast paradigms that are being followed. Like, for example, like, you know, if somebody's a Christian, like, you can assume they believe, you know, these certain, like, very common things that are the foundation of Christianity. Or if somebody is Hindu, it's like, okay, they believe, you know, all of these gods, and they're like the gods that everyone knows and that type of thing. It doesn't really exist so firmly in the sort of witchy world. There are a lot of things we've talked about, you know, certain holidays and certain practices that are common, but it's not so structured. And I think that's what can make it confusing or hard for people who are interested in it even. And also those misconceptions for people who don't know about it, and they're not really interested, but maybe they have a chance to ask a question.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, you know, that structure thing, it's that double-edged sword, right? Because people really like a framework. People really like a structure. It's human nature to want that, which is why I think like the majority of questions that we get from people who know what we do and everything are around, how can I do this and what do I need, if they're interested, because they want something. And I mean, I remember being like that too, where I was like, okay, but like, is there like a kit? And it's not even like, I mean, there's like a ton of books that you can get on lots of subjects, but it's not like here's the Bible, or here's the Old Testament, you know, this is the basis of it, or, you know, it's not that. No, it's not. And, you know, it's so much to dig through, you know, with other things because of the perspectives that things are written from and kind of the tropes and stuff. You know, it's a lot of work, essentially, is what I'm saying. But you know, people kind of want a framework, but then, you know, they don't at the same time.
Yes.
So it's hard to navigate that.
Yes.
And, you know, certainly there are like, I mean, religions like Wicca is a religion that does have more of like a specific framework. But I think a lot of the conversations I have with people, they recognize that and can like recognize, you know, inherently what might be beneficial and lovely about that. But a lot of the people I'm talking to they're wanting to get away from very strict frameworks in terms of their spirituality. So while that like makes sense in a comparison way, most people I'm talking to are like, okay, I get that. I appreciate that, respect that. But like, how do I make this like my own? And how do I deconstruct from, you know, these things I've been taught? And there's no magic answer to that, unfortunately. That's like such a...
And I liked your little sort of pun there. There's no magic answer.
There's no magic answer.
Right?
No. But I love...
But magic might be the answer.
Magic, well, and it is, right? Because ultimately, like, that's what to go back to, right? Like, every time it gets kind of overwhelming like that and everything, just getting back to that understanding of it's inside you. You don't need a kit. You don't need a thing. Like, it's all inside you, and that intention that you're doing in your everyday life is the way that you are doing magic.
Yes, and I think that however, again, you know, an official announcement or not happens, people start to see the way you live every day.
Yes.
And if they want to ask about that, they will. And if you want to answer their inquiries, you will, and you can. And, you know.
Yeah, and we support you, and you do it the way you feel called to do it at your own pace. And you can make mistakes, and you can change your mind, and you can certainly say things that you later learn are like not appropriate, and oh wow, I really appropriated that and shouldn't have done that. And dumb witch club, you're gonna be dumb. We're all dumb. Everybody's dumb in every club that exists. Like, it's all dumb. It doesn't matter.
So many things are dumb.
It doesn't matter. As long as
everything's dumb.
Everything's dumb. So many things are dumb.
Yes. Right?
Yes. And it's okay.
It's
okay. And that doesn't mean, here's the thing, that doesn't mean that just because you're dumb, that you can't be, if somebody asks you things, that you can't talk to them about it.
Yes.
You don't have to know everything just to speak on it. Yeah. Use us as an example for that if you need to. Like, we don't know anything, and we talk about it all the time.
Yeah,
so.
we just spend like an hour talking about it.
Yep. So, you know, if we can do it, you can certainly do it too.
Anyone can do it.
Yes. And if people are mean to you, just, you know, refer them to us, and we'll take care of it for you.
Yeah, we're taking names.
We are.
Absolutely.
Yes, cosmically, I got
100%.
a long list.
We'll get to yours eventually.
We'll get to them. We'll get to all of them. It's gonna happen, so just rest assured.
Yeah, we've got plenty of time. So, okay, I think that was very helpful.
I hope so. I really hope so. I really hope whoever's watching this and listening to this, that you feel, I don't know, more encouraged.
Yes, and feel seen and feel heard. And of course, no, you never have to.
No.
But you can.
You can. And trust your intuition on that, you know, when you feel like it's appropriate to do so. And
be a little bit brave. Like, be brave.
Be brave.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of reward to be reaped when things are destigmatized, when they're normalized.
Yes.
And when people can be proud of who they are, whatever that is.
Yes. And we're all on different sort of like parts of that journey and everything. And I think, you know, sort of who we're talking to with our audience in this, I was approaching, and I think you were approaching, people who are maybe are in sort of the broom closet, proverbially speaking, and
right
are, you know, but we're also talking to those of you that are not anymore, and who, you know, have the ability to be that person for somebody who might be. If you are open about that and unapologetic to an extent about that, you have no idea who you might be helping to feel comfortable and to feel safe and seen and heard and everything that Jackie just said. We all have that part to play. So
definitely. And so we just encourage you, as always, to use all of your empowerment that you have, because you have it.
Yeah, you have it.
Yeah.
Inside you.
Yes, definitely. So,
nice.
All right. I think that wraps it up for today.
I think so too.
So, until next time,
Stay witchy, friends.
and stay dumb.
Dumb Witch Club is written and produced by us, Ashley Sidner.
And Jackie Gerard at the Dumb Witch Clubhouse in Orange County, California.
Produced and edited by Matt Heinemeyer. Creative director and culture consultant, Violet Turner.
Original music by Ashley Sidner. And look us up on all your favorite social media platforms, including Patreon.
Until next time, stay witchy, friends.
And stay dumb.